Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I hope we're all doing well. I will just give it a minute or so so everyone's in and we're all ready and make sure everything is working fine. So what I'm going to do in this session is we're going to use my favorite tools with Scrapy and Zeit API, along with the structured data types from the Zeit API automatic extraction. I think this is just a really cool way to easily pull a load of data from the website. So we're going to build up a short project on this. It's going to be our kind of like stream project. So like I'm going to build it up now. We're going to start and then we'll carry it on over subsequent videos. We're going to improve it over time. We'll make it bigger. We'll make it better. We'll make it everything else. But at the moment, we're just going to start. So we're going to make sure that we've got the sort of the groundwork covered. And you can get quite a long way by just doing this. It's still a very powerful way. I'm just going to double check that my audio and video is all right. It looks a little bit like it's choppy. So just make sure that's all cleared up first. Right. Hopefully that's sorted it. I've upped the bitrate. Yeah, that's freezing. Give me a second. It should be all right now. Don't know why. I'm not dropping frames on OBS. Okay, I think I got it now. I'll just double check, make sure that it's fine, and we'll go from there. Yeah, perfect. Cool. Right. Let's start that again, shall we? So, right. The plan for this video is I'm going to use Scrapy and the Zeit API, and we're going to utilize the structured data types. And we're going to do two different ones. Both of these I really like using quite a lot because I think they're pretty powerful and it saves you a load of time. So we're going to be using product navigation and product. I'm not going to be using product list, although that does have its places. I'm going to be using product navigation. We're going to build the Scrapy spiders from the ground up through my method of doing so. And the idea is that this project is going to start our stream project. So this is going to be like episode 1, I suppose, where we're going to build it up in one way, and then we'll sort of showcase how that works, and then we will build upon it. And I've got a few ideas of how we're already going to improve it as we go forward. So in subsequent streams, we'll make it better, we'll make it faster, we'll fix any kind of problems with it or anything like that. So that's going to be the plan for this. But to start with, we're just going to get going with our Scrapy project. So the first thing I always do when I'm doing this is I start in the Zeit API playground. This is just the easiest way for me to kind of see what's going on and understand the site a bit better. I always make test requests when I'm scraping data, so it just makes total sense to do it like this. So I've got the API playground up, put my website in here, and I want to look about what comes back with the product navigation. So I did just run this, and we can see that this is what our response is going to look like for this page. Now, this is all in the documentation, which I'm going to look at as well. I'll be referencing as we go along with this. You can see that we have a URL, a next page URL, and then items. And what this means is that we can then tell Scrapy to yield requests for each of these and then go and do the product response. So let's do that as well, just to make sure we're on the right page. Let's grab this and put this in here, and we'll say that this is a product. So I'm just going to run this request, and we'll just see what comes back, and we'll make sure that it looks good, which it does. Maybe I'll buy one of these at the weekend with my spare cash. But you can see here, this has cost us what, that's 0.00145 of a cent. So this is a very little amount for this request, and this is even with the structured data. So this is pretty economical, right? So now that I'm happy that this looks like what I'm expecting, Let's go to the documentation real quick and we'll look at the product navigation here of how we call it. Let's make this a bit bigger, straightforward. Product navigation, I've lost it down here. And then we just say extract from, like so, and this will give us an output here. We can see the output of what we just looked at as well. So let's start with our building up our spider. So I'm going to open up VS Code with my project and make this as big as I can comfortably get it so you guys can see what I'm doing. Essentially what I do these days is I use UV to start all my projects. So all I've done here is I've run UV init and that's given me all of this. So obviously I don't need the main file. I'm just going to remove that because I don't need it. Now I'm going to do UV add, and I'm going to say Scrapy. So we need Scrapy, and we need Scrapy-Azite API. If you use Python and you don't use UV yet, I would highly recommend you look it up and give it a go. It's super quick. So now I can activate my virtual environment that it's created, which is .venv-bin activate here. And this is obviously Mac, so this is Unix commands. If you're on Windows, that'll be slightly different. And now I can actually start thinking about creating my project. I am going to use the Scrapy default start project, so we'll just do Scrapy start project. And I'm just going to call this one ecom for lack of a better name. It's going to create all the files for me, so make it a little bit bigger. And now we can do our GenSpider. I'm actually going to do this. I do tend to do this quite a lot with the Scrapy GenSpider. I just find it nice and easy to do so. And we'll call this one products and put it in the website. It doesn't matter, no worries. So now that that's done, we can start to do a couple of things. Now, to get Scrapy to make sure it sends the requests through Azite API, we need to do a couple of things. Now, we need to come into our settings and enable the add-on here. And I can never remember what this is, so I always reference the documentation. It's called Scrapy Azite API. Come to read the docs. Initial setup, and we can see once it's installed, you use Scrapy API add-on 500. Perfect. Let's put him in there like so. Cool. Now, I should have my Azite API key stored in my virtual, in my shell, as an environment variable. If we actually just quickly look at this here, it will tell you you need to export it like this, or you put it into your settings like this. I have mine permanently stored like this in my environment, so I don't have to worry. It's just going to pull it straight from there. If I've managed to overwrite it for whatever reason, we'll do it a different way, but this should be absolutely fine. So let's go straight to our first spider that we generated. This is obviously not going to be right. But what I'm going to do is we need to change a few things. I'm going to get rid of this. I don't need this. And we're going to come back to the playground. The playground is going to be really useful for you when you're looking at doing this sort of thing, because it's going to have code snippets for you. So if I copy this URL, we'll run this one again. We don't need the HTML because I'm not planning on looking at it. Let's just run this again. And I didn't need to run it. We get the snippet either way, I think. We do. And this is going to come up and it's going to tell you, here's a few different ways of doing things. I reference this all the time just because I forget the right terminology or the right whatever. But this is just really handy to grab here. So I'm just going to grab this start requests as a base point and stick that in here. I don't have Scrapy imported like that, so I'm going to change it to this. And this is my request. I don't need follow redirect. Scrapy will just complain if I put that in there. But this is essentially now we are asking for this product navigation. So now I'm going to reference when it comes back here in my parsing. I'm going to copy this out. And we'll put this in here like so. So let's save this and let's check that everything's working by running in here. We'll do Scrapy crawl. And this is called products. And we should then have something come back in the terminal that isn't a load of errors, and it looks like we know what we're doing. Looks good so far. Okay, so we should have some information. Yes, we do. Now this response is exactly what we were expecting because this is the same as what we were looking at in the in the playground and in the documentation, you can see that we've got the next page URL here, and this is a JSON response, which we know very easy to work with. So we can start to build this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check, and we're going to start building out the first parsing function. Now this is what we want. This is the one that's going to come first. Scrapy will default when its initial request run, or default to the parse function. You can obviously override that. I'm going to do that in a minute. The first thing we want to do is we want to, instead of yielding out the whole thing, we want to look through and get each of the URLs. So we want to do for URL in product navigation, and this is in the key of items. Now from this, we want to yield out a Scrapy request. And every time this runs, it's going to pull out this request, and it's going to go and do the URL is equal to, and we want to put in URL, I've named this badly, like so. But we do also want to send this to the Zeit API. So we want to make sure that this goes off to the Zeit API and it pulls out as a product, because this is the product navigation URLs here. So you can see here is the main response, here's items, and then we're going to loop through this list, this array, and pull out the URL and go to each one. So let's do that. So now we want to have in our meta, which is going to be equal to Zeit API auto map, and from here we can call our product is true. So this is just telling the Zeit API, hey, this is a product page, give me back your default schema with all your products, and you need to put in product options and tell it to use the extract from. And this was from the HTTP response body, I think, like so. Cool, that should be fine. And the last thing we want to do here is we want to actually send this to a different place. So I mentioned that this, the initial request will always go to the parse function unless you say otherwise. Well, in this case, we want to go to a different function. So I'm going to call this one parse item, and we are yet to build this function out, which we will do down here. Let's just put it in for the moment. We'll call it parse item self, and this will also have the response, and we'll just pass over this at the moment. Cool. So for every URL within this items list that we find here, it's going to go ahead and make a request to it, and we're going to say get me the product information, like so. Say API automap meta, returning here. Now this function is not only just going to yield this, we also want to yield out the next page request. So I'm just going to put in another yield here, and we're going to say this time it's just a scrapy.request again, and now we can say it was the actual next page URL, which was down here. So next page URL, and that's the next sort of page of the navigation. So we want to say, what do we call it? Product nav again, and next page key, and then the URL of said key. And I'm just going to go ahead and just dump this in again, because I'm only doing a couple of these, so it's just kind of easy enough to do it this way around. Like I said, we'll expand on this and make this all better as we go along. And I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can kind of see a little bit more about what we're doing, overview of the code. So at the moment, what we've got is we are going to the initial page, telling the API that it's a navigation page, and to get it from the HTTP response body. Now doing this, we're obviously going to use Zeit API to circumnavigate any bans or anything like that you might have on the page. We don't need to get Scrapy to go through any proxies or anything like that. It's all it's all handled by the Zeit API, which is fantastic. Then this yield response is going to go into our parse function. This is then going to find all the item URLs from that JSON response, so we don't need to deal with HTML in any way, shape or form, which is just, this is the main reason why I use this so much. I really don't like parsing HTML, and I avoid it as much as I can whenever I can. So I really like the auto extract features in the Zeit API, which is why we're using them here. Now, obviously, you wouldn't need to use this. You don't have to do this. You could do the same thing, But instead of using the product navigation, you could just say, hey, give me the HTML response body as it is. That'll come back to you in base64, which you can decode. And then you can pass that in Scrapy as you would do normally. So even if you didn't want to use the auto extract features in the Zeit API, you can just drop in to any Scrapy project and have it managed, have it run the way you would expect to, just by sending the HTML back into from the Zeit API into Scrapy. And that's where the combination of the two is so powerful, because obviously Scrapy is our open source project at Zeit, and it works very well with Zeit API. The integration has been, a lot of effort's gone into it, and it works very, very well. It's really good. It's really useful. So at the moment we have our initial pass. We're going to get another request, and then we're going to just do nothing with the item. So let's have a look at what comes back when we go to the item here. I go to the documentation, we go back one, here's the product. If I click on this, we'll see that it will take me to the product part of the API. So this is what we're calling product as true, and we're giving it the product options from the response body. If you need to use a browser to get this information, instead of response body, you use browser HTML. Now, obviously, that will render the browser through our API. So that will cost you just a touch more. Right? That's just kind of the way that it is, using more processing power, etc. So I would always try this one to start with if it works. And then we want to have a look at the response that comes back from this here. So I don't want to discard any of the information, but I also don't want to have it all spam the screen, because we'll not actually see what's going on. So let's go and grab our example again of this product, and we'll put it into the playground, and we'll say that this is a product. Let's run this, and let's have a look and see the actual structure of the JSON response, so we kind of know what's going on a bit better. So I have the product, and in that key there's name, price, etc., etc. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull out a couple of bits of information and use those to export through Scrapy, so I don't have like loads of data. So it's just easier for me to show what's going on when we're kind of doing it this way, right? So, but obviously this is the standard schema that we have, and it has pretty much everything that you can want, and you can expand on these schemas as well through custom attributes, which we may end up needing to do in this project further down the line, right? So this is the starting point. So let's have a look at the export. So if I just go custom snippet, you can see Scrapy just gives us an idea of what our spider would look like if we were doing this. And we can see that we get raw API response and the product like so. So I'm just going to copy this out, save me typing it, and put this in here and save. But instead of yielding the product, I'm just going to yield out specific keys. Bear with me whilst my dogs go crazy. Someone's at the door. 1 second. Right, sorry about that. There's only so much you can do when people turn up at your door randomly. Right, so all I'm going to do from this is I'm going to yield out only part of the information, because I only want to handle part of the information. Let me do that real quick. So we'll have the name, and this is going to be product name, and the key name, like so. And then we'll do the price. So we'll have price just as an idea, pull out any bits of information that you want, or none, or whatever, or you can do all of it. Obviously, if you're actually using this data for a reason, you'd have all of it, because it makes more sense to do so. And we'll save. I'm going to run this now and we'll see what happens, and we'll make sure, you know, that everything's working. And then I'm going to do a couple of tweaks to the settings before we actually do the main output, because you'll notice that this is going to go reasonably slowly and it's not going to be the quickest thing in the world. And we'll change that, and I'll show you how to make it so fast that you have to worry. Okay, so it is working. Here it is, chugging through one by one. Now, I'm going to turn this, stop this now, and we're going to go to our settings, and I'm going to change this to 32. This concurrent per domain is something that you can control, but you obviously can't go quicker than the Zeit API will allow you. But that doesn't mean you should just smack this straight away, because you know you need to be considerate of what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. I'm going to put it at 32 because I'm only making 200 odd requests, and I'm going to try and I'm going to demonstrate how quickly this can be. Right, so I'm going to save this, and we're going to run this again, and hopefully this time it'll be much quicker. And I'm going to do my output.json file, output.json, and let's see, this should be much faster now. We should see that the information coming through a lot quicker. And I think this has somewhere in the region of 215-ish products, I think. So we are going a little bit quicker this time around. There we go. Let me come back over here. So if we're making, you know, if each of our requests is costing 0.0145, and we're going to make, you know, 200 odd requests, or that's, you know, we're going to cost us 29 cents, right? So this is not a lot, and this includes the structured data output. If you don't have this, it's going to be much cheaper. So if you just wanted the HTML, for example, I think this will cost you 0.9 or something like that, maybe, or just 0.1 on its own. So you can see how, when you're taking into a consideration not wanting to handle all of this extra information yourself, when you want the, you know, the power of getting through the bands and everything like that, versus, you know, trying to do it all yourself through proxies, it's still quite cost efficient. I'll let that just come up. So we're still going it here a little bit. This was actually a little bit quicker when I ran it earlier. There you go. I must have changed the settings somewhere else. But we should be chugging along nicely and get the output from this pretty quickly. I think started. Okay, let's try it again. So we are actually getting the response. I don't know why it's not giving. Okay, so yeah, so it's 0.1. So, I mean, this is, if you think about the amount of data that you would need per page, and you're working on per gigabyte, for example, I think the average cost is anywhere from like $2 to $4 per gigabyte. So this stacks up pretty favorably. So I would always recommend coming and having a look and checking first to see how you're getting on and working out your project requirements. I should have my output file here already. It's just going to be added to as we go through. So you can kind of see as you go along where you're up to. So we've got about 80 or so. And you can see getting all the information in here that we've asked to scrape. Now, I've done this before, and there is some weird information, weird kind of like bits coming through where some of the prices are like $1, which is obviously not correct. What that means is it just gives us the opportunity to actually, you know, want to explore this a little bit more and figure out, you know, what parts of the data we want to change. So this is our initial starting point, right? This is the starting point that we're going to work with. We are going through every page like you would do normally with Scrapy, and we're going to go through and extract the product information from it. So this is where we're going to leave it. You get the idea of what we're doing. So this is like a good starting point. And then the next string we do, we're going to expand upon this. We're going to make it better. We're going to use some slightly different tools. We'll improve the speed of scraping, etc. And we'll look through actually doing something with the data. So I'm going to jump off now because my dogs are not being quiet and it's just being distracting. Apologies for that. There's only so much I can do. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you sticking around for this, and I will catch up with you guys in the next one. Keep your eye. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. There'll be, you know, stuff on this coming up. The stream will be on there, and also we have the Extract Summits coming up. So, you know, make sure you come down to Austin, come down to Dublin, come and say hello. Thanks very much for watching. I will catch up with you again real soon. Cheers.